Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, friends. I will share my screen so we can see the case here. Okay, so it's a case of psoriasis, and this gentleman had very extensive psoriasis, very extensive. It was on his forehead here, nape of neck, ears, behind ears, hands, back, completely back was full, his chest, abdomen. So very extensive psoriasis. And it was there for 10 years. But what was important was how he started. So when I switched on the camera, so he said, "Are you recording it?" I said, "Yes." I explained him why. So he started, 40-year-old male, main complaint is psoriasis for last 10 years. This is exactly how he started. So for us, this presentation itself, the way he starts his case, this itself is very important. So he was in US for quite few years and then he came to India. So it basically happened when I transitioned from US to India. And then he was in North India in one city. There was a lot of pus and boils and there used to be rashes. Initially, it looked like dandruff, but then it was diagnosed as psoriasis. There were white flakes. And he was given a lot of medicines, steroids and methotrexate. And so when he came, those medicines were on. If you look back of my back, if a layman sees it, he would be shocked. So that extensive was the condition. And he said, I was told that this comes from stress. My work is global solutions. So work remains very hectic. Initially, I did not take stress of the work, but it was high pulse work. Like you would skip your heartbeats, those kind of situations. So intensely stressful. And when I moved from North Indian city to Mumbai, there were some family stresses as well. So a joint family, and there was some certain partiality at home, like his brother was given more importance. My nature is emotional and sensitive. I don't get worried, but I get vengeful internally. How can somebody do like this? And it gave me sleepless nights, some stress. And that's when my psoriasis got intense. So if we see in this case, so we have intense psoriasis and his work stress and his family stress. So for us, what we have to do is we have to find out a common thread, a common experience which expresses itself in all these three. It's not that work gives him psoriasis or the family stress gives him psoriasis, but all three are expressed and we have to find a common thread. So we started with his work. So let's understand what is the stress in the work. So work is global solutions. We are into outsourcing industries. So if any MNC from outside, if they want to outsource some work into India, so we do request for information, request for proposals. So a lot of times it's all last minute. And I have to be part of multinational. So a lot of coordination is involved. There are a lot of meetings, phones. And when it gets pedal to the metal, when it gets heavy, it gets really heavy. Mind has to be very active and alert. I will not say there is stress, but there is a push to get work done. Of course, I have a team working under me and I'm responsible for a lot of it. I would not count this as tension, but definitely it stresses you off physically. So observe the words he is using, what he is describing, pedal to the metal, heavy, push, active, alert. Mentally, I don't know, but it must be stressing subconsciously. My work is very volatile. So today, if I'm sitting there and a global company has come and there is RFP process and submission has to be done, then it will be minute to minute counting. What's the stress? It's continuous, monotonous and repetitive work. So I asked him, what are the qualities needed for this, to be in this? This was a wrong question to ask, but still. So strategic thought process, discipline, high focus, timelines, multitasking. So there are times that I'm working on 4 projects and I'm attending 3 calls in my cabin, different opportunities. I kind of time playing in such a way that I speak when required, and other places I'm not at it at a time. So a lot of juggling. He's sending an email, he's speaking on the phone, he's talking to colleague. So many things happening simultaneously in his cabin. It tires you off sometimes. Plus continuous laptop use. More than stress, I would say it wears me out physically and mentally. Not 365 days, but 200 plus days in a year. Because on holidays also you are working. So I asked him, give us one example, one incident when it was very intense. So he explained where he went to US and there was this process to be done, and in few days they had to submit, and how he described that we would start working early in the morning till late in the evening, lunch work and dinner also work. So I would say pedal to the metal, continuously explaining solutions to someone, meetings, emails, talking on the phone. So again, I asked him, just describe more about this incident. So I'm not going through the whole detail, so we can cut down. But again, like how they have to do a presentation to the clients, and on the previous day they do trial runs, and then there's presentation, and then further discussions, and then there's another client workshop. So it will be 7-day visit, which will be pedal to the metal. When I say that, there will be no free time. When we say pedal to the metal, we don't lift the foot off the pedal. So this is the gesture that he does. So I try to detach him. Forget your work for some time. But just describe, how does it feel to be in that kind of situations? It's draining, mentally exhausting, physically draining, very tired. I don't want to take any further calls. Too much coordination I have to do, and too much attention has to be given. I'm not able to relax in work or outside work. Sundays are good, but Mondays I don't feel that. So his energy, it's not back to normal level. How is it to start from zero? To start from zero means I am not focused about it throughout. To start from zero means I need exciting. So that phase makes me very exciting. It excites my hormones. It kind of motivates me, and I'm able to push more and convert it into a win. It's a fun process. So to speak more about this hormones and pushing, and it's adventure. It pushes me to work more. Somewhere I feel I would relate it to the horsepower of the car, like a sports car. When you push an accelerator, it goes from 0 to very high. Initially, this is a stage I'm in. My energy levels for 5, 6, 7 hours remain the same. While I'm at it, I feel more motivated, more encouraged to push through. There are a lot of people who feel satisfied doing just 2 hours of work in a day. And there are people who feel satisfied after doing a lot of work in a day. And I get satisfied when there's a lot more work done. I feel that pulse, feel that motivation. Some level of kick, I don't know. So I said, just talk about the sports car, horsepower of the sports car. And he talks about Ferrari. It goes from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds. And that's where I am when I start this. This is exciting piece. So it goes from 0 to 100 or 0 to 70 kilometers per second in just 2 seconds. And then it sustains that speed. What's that experience? It's goosebumps. It's motivation. It's a feel of power, agility. It's that you are onto something. That's the feel it gives. That's the feel of consistency if you're driving for 3-4 hours. Consistent speed. Every time you do it the same. And then we went to the other sphere, and that was family. So now the experience that we saw in the work stress, sorry. So we have to see how do we get the same or the same part of experience in the family as well. This was a challenge. So I was quite upset about it. I started to lose my sleep. I'm a kind of person, a kind of relationship I have with my father. So just to cut short, his relationship with his father was not very communicative. In last 40 years of life, I have not gone and cried on my father's shoulder. I have not shared my problems. That's kind of thing. And then he couldn't speak much about the family thing. Then we went to interests and hobbies, and he spoke about movies. And he spoke about some movie which again involved family politics. And then he spoke about the cycle of relationships, what you expect from them and what they expect from you. How do you do it? A lot of my thoughts get spent on all these things. So I said, forget about relationship, just talk about the cycle. Cycle means, people's relationship. People siding by each other and showing another person. Same old thing. People taking wrong calls in life, blaming the wrong person, people ganging up against people, all this normal cycle that normally happen, which I sometimes tend to relate myself with. And so what is it about ganging up? When I came back from US, I spent 8 years outside, and then I was in North India. And when I came home, I was like a third entity. I took some time to open up. It was a very lost feeling, and it was very hurtful. There was a disconnect. I was extremely related and very close to my mom. There was a gesture. But when I came back, I found that disconnect. The disconnect was, mother was my mother. She took care of me, but earlier, the relationship that I was literally in her lap, that relationship was not to be anymore. That is what I felt. Literally in her lap means what? I was Mama's boy. Very secure, very enriching. You feel that this is permanent, very unbreakable. Just talk about this experience, just that feel. Loved, like your mother is always there. You can go and talk to your mother. You have that trust, that reliability, that permanency. You feel secure. It's bliss, it's wonderful, it's enriching. So the trust and reliability scenario is very high. So what happened when you came back? When I came back, I lost that connect. The experience of being sidelined by someone, he felt bitter. It was the experience of being sidelined by someone on whose lap you were in. Those were the 2 years of bitter experience. I felt totally disconnected. Suddenly, I felt that I don't have any connection with my parents. Fear of separation from family, it's not today, but it was there earlier. And that was a time when his psoriasis was maximum. So, what's the kind of energy we see in him? Very high energy, industrious, pace, push, high pulse, like if you skip your beat, pedal to the metal. And the exact opposite, which is tired, it wears you down, exhausted, your energy comes down to zero. So, of course, from his description, his way of description, if you see the issues, how he perceives the issue, his experience, you can very clearly see the kingdom, mineral kingdom. Now the question comes is which is the row of periodic table, whether it is row 1, row 2, row 3, which row are we talking about? So this is if you look at the mineral kingdom, this is explaining the experience of row 2 of periodic table. And the remedy that we are talking about is carbon. What is the experience of row 2? where the person wants to be a part of mother figure, wants that support, that dependence, that connection, that warmth, that trust, that security and stability that mother offers. To be in her lap. And the source words which he spoke about, volatile, like being in a sports car, horsepower of the car, pedal to the metal. And all this brings us to the remedy petroleum, but rather benzene petrol. It's a gasolinum or benzinum raffinatum. It's the petrol that we fill in our car, it's the gas we fill in our car. That is, and he speaks about the energy, the push, and that's the part of the carbon, because carbon is the energy. Whether we talk about food, the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, or we talk about the petroleum, which is the source of energy. And all these carbon remedies, the energy carbon remedies, shows us this high push, high energy, industriousness, or the exact opposite, exertion. That's the case. But the change that appeared in just 2 months' time, his psoriasis started going down. And within few months, his psoriasis completely disappeared. We discontinued all the medicines. But the most beautiful part was he became very calm. His state, which was at this high pace, became very, very calm. And this is very obvious in a video. Unfortunately, I'm not showing the video here. And when we asked about the family, so he said that after speaking to you over a period of time, what has happened that I stopped bothering about the family issue, and suddenly the family also changed. So this is the change that happened in him. So the proving showed a strong tendency towards hurry and acceleration. There was an urgency, heedlessness towards reaching his goals. This characterizes most of the homeopathic remedies made from fuels.
Yeah, Dr. Parish, wonderful case, and
thank you.
Very beautifully, we saw the two qualities of very high energy and exhausted, and secondly, the great, dependence on the mother to be in her lap, etc. It's very nice how these two come together in carbon. What I wanted to ask you, you exhibited a lot of different skills in doing this case. For example, the skill of case taking. For example, finding the common thread. For example, the study of the periodic table and the kingdoms. For example, maybe even repertorial rubrics and provings. The study of source qualities. So you use several aspects in order to now many of our viewers today, some may be beginners, some may be advanced practitioners, etc. But can you say a few words about how these can be learned? Because I know that it has been a journey for you. You used to assist me long ago in the past, and it has been a development. So, what I want to say is that doing cases like this requires training in all these different aspects. It is not something that can just come overnight, but a very systematic training. Yesterday I was watching an interview with the sitar player Ravi Shankar, and he was describing how the initial years of his training happened, so systematically, So he was describing this, and then he said that after a few years of this kind of systematic training, then he could, improvise, and, a lot of things can happen that is original also. And that's one of the reasons why we started this master class, and that they can have a very, very systematic training from the beginning to the current moment. Do you have any words to say about this kind of training?
So, sir, homeopathy is experiential. And as you spoke about the music and the sitar, is when you see it happening. Even if I would attend 100 lectures, or I would read a lot of books. That learning is good, but when you see it happening right in front of you, when there is an experiential learning, like for me, when I was working with you way back in 91, 92, 93, that was the best experience for me. And seeing you in practice or seeing other teachers and seeing cases after cases, how you solve it. So this kind of learning is the best way of learning, that I would say, that experiential learning.
Wonderful. Thanks, Paresh. Thanks very much.
Thank
for
you, sir.
that.
Thank
Yes.
you.
So I invite now Dr. Prajakta. Dr. Prajakta is a younger homeopath, and she is a part of the Gurukul training that we have now initiated in the last 8 months, where we take 14 of the most talented homeopaths of the country and give them everything possible and do everything to train them up. Dr. Prajakta will share her case and some thoughts about